Hello, everybody. Big Ruben here.
Jose.
Welcome to Men Redefining Manhood. We're a podcast that is predominantly for fathers, men. So we are a movement for fathers and men ready to rewrite what it means to be men. Let's redefine manhood together.
Yeah, so we have another interesting topic that hopefully our audience will enjoy. The topic that we'll be talking about today, Ruben, is who are we when no one is watching, when no one's around us, and uh, when we're not needing anybody to validate us and so forth, right? As individuals, do you think that as men, do you think that our guard drops, or do we behave differently or make choices differently? What's your take on that?
I think so. I think, as men, we're supposed to be that macho. We're supposed to be the protector. So when we're out with our families, yeah, we have to be the on guard. I've
Yeah.
seen videos on like Facebook a lot where a girl will be like videoing and stuff, and it's like, yeah, look at this big teddy bear, and it's the guy, and the guy's like, he sees and he's like, oh no,
And
no,
he
yeah, he
changes his
changes right away,
posture.
changes his posture right away. Um, so I think about that a lot, but I also think on the other aspect of it,
Mm.
like when we're out, we're predominantly providers, protectors, but when we're home, are we actively filling that role? Are we really engaging with our family? Are we so lost in our mind thinking about bills, thinking about what stresses us the day today? You know,
Yeah,
did we meet our expectations for the day? A lot of that processing too.
yeah,
So
yeah.
um, I think, yeah, a lot of our guard gets down when we're home, and it kind of could go different ways depending on, I guess, where we're at mentally, spiritually. Uh,
So probably more like
yeah,
in public, right? In public is
yeah,
probably where we might have a very different demeanor, posture, and approach, right?
yeah,
And then when we're home, when we feel like we're in a safe space with our own family and our spouses and our kids, then maybe we behave different, right?
hmm,
Uh, and then when we're alone too, right? Then when we're alone, is there a part of us? For me, I'd like to think that when we're alone, there's probably, sure, there's a part of us that where we drop our guard, but there's a part of us too where we can just be who we are as guys, right? As men,
yeah,
right? Like, um, maybe not having to, for example, maybe not having to filter or water down, our vocabulary, or uh, how we express, our emotions, away from family, away from friends. Like, we could just, if we get upset or something, we have that conversation with ourselves in the moment,
yeah,
like, man, like, this sucks, or
yeah,
um, that maybe otherwise people or men might refrain from doing that, or expressing too much emotion, like if they're around friends or spouses or whatnot. So
yeah. And I see that like a lot on social media where, sometimes guys are too afraid to let out those types of emotions, even with our partners,
mhm.
on the feeling of being judged, the feeling of being less of a man, weak. And we need to get out of that mind frame. I used to think a lot like that
Mhm.
for a very long time. Like I couldn't really express certain things. My wife's like, "You have to talk to me. Like, what's going on?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "No, no, no, I got it. I'll take care of it. Like, don't worry about it." But I think that also gets into like we're saying, the protective factor. What we're doing outside of it. Like, I need to protect my household, so I'm going to even protect it at my own cost,
Sure.
which can cause a lot of issues. And it did. Me personally, caused a lot of issues. And until I was able to work on that and be like, no, this is my safe soft spot.
Yeah.
This is what she's here for.
Yeah.
She's okay with me being vulnerable and talking about stuff that may be kind of heavy for me at the moment.
Yeah. Without being judged or criticized, right? And actually being vulnerable and feeling like you can be open, right, about how you feel and so forth, you know.
Yeah, but it could be difficult. It could be, especially, I guess, in our culture. We're supposed to be so machista,
right,
where we can't really share emotions, and I think that gets back into a lot of the stuff that we've talked in previous podcasts. We have to be the manly man. Lo que yo digo, like it's like no, like that doesn't make you more of a man. Like
pushes people away from you.
Yeah.
I think it pushes people away from you, like sometimes even like like kids don't even want to deal with a father that is that way, they become more distant, they rather spend time out of the home with friends, away from family, to avoid constant exposure to that type of behavior,
Yeah.
But I also think, that part of the question also becomes, not only, who are we when no one's watching, right, or validating us, um, and do we even change? For some people, right, they might not even change who they are, regardless of where they're at. If they're alone, if they're with family, they might carry, some people might carry that rigid approach across the board, with everyone in general, and then some people do know how to create, how to distinguish that difference, right? Like, okay, you know what? In this environment, I need to be this way, right?
Yeah.
In this environment, I can be this way. I can, and when I'm alone, I can be this way, and be able to make that, right, and be okay with making those changes on the fly when necessary.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think, can you imagine if someone's constantly on guard, or if someone is constantly um on fight or flight mode, or maintaining that very machista status and so forth, day in and day out, every minute of their lives, regardless of what environment they're in, I would probably be thinking, damn, that's got to be tiring, and that's got to be stressful,
exhausting,
right? To constantly be a certain way, um, and not be able to make those adjustments, to give yourself a little bit of easy time, to give yourself a little bit of
some grace,
space, Yeah,
Yeah, and like I said, being that I've been there, it was exhausting, being so hyper vigilant of everything. It's like, okay, no, I have to sit here, and it's always being on guard. And even when I got home, I was still on guard, and I was like, no, something has to change. Like, and I think I've talked about it in a previous podcast. What really stuck out to me is the day that my wife told me, you got to learn to love yourself.
Absolutely.
And I think it was a lot of that internal work that I had to do and figure out, like, okay, why do I feel this way? Why am I so angry? Why am I so rigid? Why do I feel this way? And it was really looking at the inner me, and going to therapy, getting the help that I need, and working on some of the past trauma and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, no, we have to address it.
Yeah.
It was extremely hard, but I had to address it. It's like, no, because it was kind of like you said earlier, my wife didn't even want to be around me because I was always on the edge. And it's like, no, we can't be like that. I want what's better. And then, I fast forward, I look at now, and me and my wife had this conversation the other day. It's like, have you noticed, like, our son, he's grown and he still finds the time to want to hang out with us.
Yes.
Want to be around. And that makes me really realize, like, okay, we've talked in the previous podcast, we broke that cycle. I broke that cycle of getting out of that and being that safe space for him, and teaching him, like, it's okay to embrace our emotions, and really validate who we are.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I think what it teaches too is that it's okay to be different when you're on your own, when no one's watching. It's
Yeah.
okay to give yourself a moment to feel a certain way, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to do that even if you're around other people, right? Like it shouldn't be excuse me, it shouldn't be an issue, it should be
Yeah.
something that you should be able to do,
Yeah.
so yeah, yeah, it's excuse me, it's a it's an important it's an important process for men to undergo. When you talk about loving yourself and what does that look like, right? Some people probably don't know what it means to love yourself, right? Because
Yeah.
if they weren't given that love, if they weren't offered that growing up, then what does it look like to be loved? What does it look like to validate yourself? What does it look like to tell yourself, you know what, you did great, it's okay? What does it look like
Mm-hmm.
to, again, be compassionate to yourself,
Yeah.
and allow yourself the space, and to make a mistake and be okay with it, correct it, and move on, and not hit yourself over the head over and over and over and over for a mistake that you made, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like no, that's important. It's important to make that realization.
Yeah. And I think it was because of my upbringing. My father was very critical, very critiquing of everything. Uh, Still kind of is. We're working
Mhm.
on that. Um, and I kind of grew up thinking that that's how I had to be. I had to perfect everything. And if it didn't work out, then, oh, shame on you. Like,
Mhm.
this is not working out. So that would cause a lot of, you know, shame, anger, frustration. And I would try to bury it. Like, no, okay, no. Like, we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this. Like, I'm going to try to avoid the situation and kind of get through it, and
Right.
everything's going to be okay. And no, it was like it kept coming up, and it was like, okay, how do we change this?
Right.
How do I love myself?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's start off with, hey, Ruben, let's learn to like yourself. Let's learn to understand you're different. It's like everybody. We all make mistakes. It's okay. But what did we learn from the mistake? What are we going to do moving forward?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. It's interesting because when my wife and I get into the car, on multiple occasions, she has asked me, why do you like your car so quiet? Like every time she comes into my car and like my music is off, or my music is really low, and I drive, and for me, when I'm alone, those are moments of rest and moments of reflection and deep thought for me. Like those are the moments when I strategize, when I process, when I'm planning my next moves, in terms
Mm-hmm.
of business, in terms of whatever my goals are, right? And so I told her, I said, if you think about it, my life is very busy, day in and day out. I'm on the clock about things that need to get done. So the only opportunity that I have that doesn't give me the option to be on a computer or to be doing other things that may be business related is when I'm driving. So when I'm driving, I take the opportunity to shut the radio off, to get into deep thought, to analyze, reflect, and begin to put things together, and as far as what the goals are going to be, what are my ideas and so forth, right? And so that's why when you get into my car, that's why you don't find music.
Yeah. All right.
And so, but for her it's very different. She's in the car and she's got the music going on, and
Yeah.
she might be singing to a tune or whatnot, which is cool. That's
Yeah.
that's nice. But for me, I don't know why, I just feel like doing that robs me, or I rob myself of the opportunity to put my processes in a place where they're needed.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's fine, and I'm okay with that, right? Like,
Yeah.
so like
That's good.
It's it's interesting. So that's who I am. When I'm alone,
Yeah.
like that's who I am. I'm constantly thinking, just reflecting, and like, what did I do today? What did I do wrong? What did I do right? How to correct it? What have I done? Like, where am I going in life? Like, and it's just that that is a constant, in moments when I'm alone. And I was like, and today I was actually thinking, I was actually telling myself, you know what? But I think it's time that I do give myself a little bit of a break. And I was like, maybe I'll just go catch a movie today because I don't really go to the movies, or like it's every so who knows how often.
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe I'll just go to the movies and just sit there and just have a moment to myself and just watch something that I really want to watch that maybe my wife isn't really into. And at least I give myself that opportunity too,
Yeah. Self
to
care.
enjoy something that I like,
Yeah.
without having to put her through the ringer,
It's like,
because she doesn't
I
like
want
it.
to watch.
So yeah, man,
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that's different. That's good though. I need to think of doing that because yeah, sometimes I'll just turn on music and I'm like, like for me, it's kind of like draining out the noise of having to think of everything that's going on. I'm like,
yeah, yeah,
I have to see this client. I got to do this with the fam. I have to take care of that, take care of
sure,
this, and
yeah,
it could be a lot. So I think for me, music is something that drains it out. But
yeah. But
maybe
everybody's
actually
different
sitting,
though,
yeah,
right? Like for
yeah,
some
everybody
people,
has different.
that's what works, right? Like,
Mhm.
being alone, hearing music and singing, or just bumping the music, or or playing a specific song, it brings you comfort, brings you peace, brings you, and that's
Mhm.
cool, right? Like,
Yeah,
and I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that, like, and so when we're alone, we have that power to be who we want to be and to make those decisions that we want to make. Not that we're not who we want to be around other people or anything, but when we're alone, I think, like, you can really do whatever you want without the concern that it might affect somebody else, right?
yeah,
Like, it's your choice, you're doing it, and it's not going to put someone else in a discomfort, right?
yeah.
Like, you know, so yeah,
Okay,
it's just my take.
yeah, yeah. That's awesome. Okay. Yeah, I actually seen something earlier today on today's topic, and I thought I would share it with you and
Yeah, sure.
everybody. I thought this was really good. So it's based off, who are we when no one's watching? And there's this guy, and he says, we don't rise to the standards we have when others are watching. We fall to the standards we have when no one's watching.
Mm.
And it made me really
Oh,
think,
nice.
dang, that's really deep. Like, if we
Absolutely.
really, really think about it, I'm like, wow, okay. Like, I could catch myself, you know, doing stuff. Like, one of the other guys I was watching, he's like, yeah, he's like, your true character is when it's just you alone.
Yeah.
He's like, when you're alone, will you throw trash out of your car when you're driving?
Mm.
Maybe.
Mm.
What about when you're with your kids? Are you going to do it?
Mm.
Probably not. He's like,
Mm.
your true character is when you're alone and you do throw out that trash. Is it productive for you to throw out that trash out of the car or find a trash can and throw it away? I really sat back and I was like, dang,
Yeah.
what do I do when I'm just me alone? Like, have I thrown? And then I started reflecting,
Yeah.
like, dang, have I ever thrown anything out of the car? And I'm like, dang, that really makes me want to think and reflect more on my character. Like, okay,
Mm.
what can I do better when no one is watching?
Yeah.
Like, how can I process to be better at that?
Yeah, for sure.
And I was like,
That's a good one.
wow.
Yeah.
I was like, that's very thoughtful, very insightful. I was like, dang.
And what you just mentioned, is deep, right? Because we're always trying to fulfill we're always trying to fulfill someone else's expectation of us,
Mm-hmm.
and we might fall short, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's never perfect, right?
Yeah.
But when it's just us alone, we could be okay,
Yeah.
right? We can make it okay, if we fall short. We
Yeah.
can make it okay to just meet, right?
Yeah.
The baseline that we've established or the expectation that we've established, and be okay with that, right?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, like that's probably where that's probably where we need to be across the board, right?
Yeah.
And we change things up a little bit when we're with other people, with our significant others, our loved ones, our family,
Yeah.
and so forth, and it's like puts a little bit more pressure on us.
Yeah. But I think it's insightful to really look at that. Like, okay, like, are we doing stuff for our own sanity, or are we doing it just to please somebody else?
Yeah.
And I think that goes right back into that topic. Like, who are we when no one's watching?
Yeah.
So we also have to be aware of who are we. Let's reverse it. Who are we when other people
When
are
everybody's
watching?
watching.
Everybody's watching.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah.
are we being real with Are we being the real us?
Yeah.
Are we being putting a facade up?
Sure.
And I think a lot of us men do that.
Yeah.
I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, we have to express how we feel and what's going on, and
Absolutely.
come up with a.
And it's also good if you're able to moderate, right? Like if you're able to balance out, according to different environments. I think it probably becomes more problematic, right? When it's just a continuum of one behavior, and that behavior doesn't meet the need or the expectation of the environment that you're in. For example, right? Like naturally being rude to everyone, right? Like no regard for other people, respect for them, nothing, right? Being rude to your kids, being rude to your spouse, and then being rude to the person in the drive-through, right? Like being able to moderate that, I think it's also important, right? Like, listen, if you want to be rude when you're alone and you want to be rude to yourself, then by all means have at it, right? But it doesn't mean that you should be rude. You should be rude to everyone else, right? Like, so, yeah, it's I mean, it's a good topic, because I don't know. I honestly, I don't know how many people probably even stop to think about that. Like, who are we?
Yeah.
Who am I really when I'm alone?
What is my character really like?
Yeah, what's my character really like when I'm really just by myself, and I have nobody else around me, Yeah. So yeah, but yeah, no, I think it was great. It's definitely a good topic, and hopefully you guys got something from this, and helpful to you. And again, feel free to drop any comments. Visit our Instagram page at Men Redefining Manhood. Anything else you want to add, Ruben, to what we got going on?
Yeah, just like you said, feel free to check out our IG page. If you have any comments, questions, if you want to be on our podcast, let us know. We're going to start trying to implement bringing more people on and stuff like that, getting different opinions and stuff. So yeah, just feel free to reach out. Feel free to ask questions.
Yeah, it's about building a community, and we want men out there, fathers out there, to reach out if there's a struggle or something. Shoot us a message, and it's something that maybe we can talk about as well, because I'm sure that if one person's experiencing it, others might be as well.
Yeah.
So it's good, to be able to do that, and then, like you mentioned, to be able to bring people on board too, to give us their own perspective, right?
Yeah. Or it could be a topic that you want to hear about, something that maybe, hey, can you guys talk about this? Can you, let us know. That's what we're here for.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys for your time, and again, stay tuned for the next one, and see you then.
All right, take care.